here we are into the first game of 3 today. This one's going to be in the classic, Collins International Lexicon, and we'll see how it goes. I'll be moving first. Okay, probably just want to turn over some tiles right now to get ourselves out of a potential situation with a Q. Too bad we're missing something like a U to play Burka through. But yeah, let's just turn over as many tiles as we can. Dig ourselves out of the hole, create some space. And having QIS available will be nice in order to dig ourselves out of this somehow, but probably, given the lack of other options, we'll just go QI if it's something that's going to be open in the next turn. Always a little bit of a danger against a good player to be leaving something like the A in Barman open along that column, because you can have some 2x2 double-double plays go through there. And that's something that he will definitely be looking at if he has the right tiles for it. Nice thing about Barman, of course, is that it is already pluralized, so you can't just tag an S onto that. Right now, that actually does more harm to me than it helps, because it blocks off my own S, but that's just something to keep in mind for later. So yeah, I think if we just manage to play off the Q, then we're probably in somewhat good shape. It really does get in the way. Right now we're holding the G as well, and the G goes well with things like ing endings, but otherwise tends to be a bit clunky. If we're playing off the Q, we're almost certainly playing it with the I somewhere. Again, this is likely to be the first choice play. We'll see what opens up, though. Parters. I think we stick to the plan. This is a potential hotspot here, but we can't really take that much advantage of it right now, so stick to the plan. And let's see. If we have another G, we have something like Hagglers. I guess we'll see what else this could do for me. Nice thing, of course, is that H will just go under the S as well, but right now the issue is that we don't have the right vowels to play under this in the way that I would like. So, for example, you could have something like this with the H. I don't know if I'd want to use my S that way, but we'll perhaps keep that in mind. Yeah, it will really depend on whether this spot remains open. We can't put the H here or something across simply because the vowels are not lining up the way I would like. But I should also see if there is anything else I can do with this rack. It feels like it's close to something other than just Hagglers, but it's tough to see sometimes with that GH combination. So we'll wait my opponent's move, and I guess given the current situation that we're in, something like that is not terrible. It does spend the S, but it's probably going to be significantly better than the next available play, so yes, Tactics 47, Collins to start today. We have a really small group today, quite limited turnout, so this might be my only Collins game. I'm expecting that the other ones will likely be NWL unless we have repeats. So yeah, I hope the playing has been Treating you well over on your side. And let's see. I have the feeling that maybe I am missing something with this. But... Oh, we should just take a very quick look at this as well. But the GH combination here is really not doing as much for me as I would like. So I think very likely what we'll do is just go with the original idea. And given that this is not really a board for S hooks right now anyway, I mean, the S would have been useful as some other kind of bingo tile, but we're not really thinking in terms of tagging a bingo using the S in our current situation. I mean, obviously there's this lane over here, but it's not a board that's really prone to lanes. And so... yeah, we'll just see whether there's anything that's going to present itself here. I've been much better about actually bothering to look for 9s since starting to play Wiggles. And I found a few, sometimes, much more frequently than I used to, but it is something that I do tend to overlook. But something like the ER or RE are worth looking at sometimes, depending on the balance of the rest of your rack. Roofied, if you roofie someone, like if you give someone a roofie, let's check it just in case. 5-point challenge. Learning experience. Okay. Guess not. Good call there. Let's see what we can do here. Like maybe something like Glen or Glean. I don't want to spend both vowels, I think. I actually kind of like the idea of putting Glen there. We also know what he's holding, so let's maybe get this by alphagram as well. Just so we keep track. No, it's a blank. So he's got that. Gape, of course, takes the A in front. That's the only thing that we need to be careful about here. But we'll otherwise keep this fairly closed. I probably should have seen, after I recognized that the R was to blank, probably should have looked a little bit closer at whether there are some other alternatives that are available. But right now, it's not really the best bingo board. Yeah, so he's going to drop the FOO as a bit of a placeholder variable. And the hotspot here isn't going to be too useful. He's got D for it, but not too concerned about it right now. I think that we do need to kill off the V somehow, and I'm looking at a spot here, but we don't quite have the right stuff to use with it. Maybe just a gov here. I think that's probably best, in fact. Okay, got the other blank. Great. This is obviously something like pillars. If a hook presents itself. Let's think about whether there's going to be something else. Particularly because we know that there's an A hook over Gape. And that's really going to be a spot that's worth looking at. Other than that, though, I mean, it's kind of interesting that we blocked off the S lane here as well, but it's not totally safe if you have something like an ST ending. Even an SP or something there. If we do have something that we can do with a parallel P, I'm just trying to think over my Collins 3s pretty quickly, and I don't think there's going to be something that fits there. Yeah, ref is of course going to take the T. We'll see if something opens. I don't know if lean takes anything in front. That's sort of important in case... I mean, there would be something like glean, of course, if we have something like an AG ending. But that's obviously not what we're going to be doing with this rack. But that's something to keep in mind in case it becomes open. Okay, let's see if we have something that will work here. The BE is really going to prevent anything from going down, given that I don't have the O. So let's think about whether we have something else that we can do. He's got to play off BOI, so we know that he's still holding DE blank. And yeah, just going to look at this quickly, but obviously positionally there's really not much flexibility here. Unless we have an O or an A ending. Given that I don't think that's going to be the case, I think we just need to play this off somehow. I don't want to just go something like pill because obviously there's the S hook that would go in front. Probably don't want to do that with a blank hanging either. This would be vulnerable to an E on the end, but it also wouldn't open up. Also my A could go there if we want to tag something in there. Just looking at this very carefully to make sure we don't... Like, can we have something that will dive into his shop? No, let's just play. Okay, very heavy on this right now. We have things like Scarlet, Claret, there's a whole set in there, I think. There's more than that. But right now, we don't really have much to work with, except for maybe an ST ending here. That's probably the best way to do it. I was actually kind of thinking with his D when I was playing this that since I knew he was holding D, if he gave me something like that, that maybe we can put something there. So, but I just don't really have the vowels to make that work, I think. I think it's something like Scartled. I'm trying to think, because there's a whole set here. Scarlet, Crestal, I think. Crestal. Let's write that down. But unless we have something that will hit this ending, that's not going to help. And I don't think we have something right now that will drive over to the D. I was really hoping for that. Or something that will tag the A in agape or agape. So let's see what we can do with this, because I'm a little bit stuck with having to do something that will break the rack. You know, something like card. Which would really just continue closing up when we're holding the blank. I don't really like that. We're so far behind. Cartels is also in there. Not that it fits. But we need something that will hit the D. Maybe this is okay, because maybe something will come down after that. I don't know, because like these are all 2 plays away from something, simply because of the V and the C being in those positions. I don't really think that's a lot to work with. We can also do something down to the L in Boil. But I don't see that happening. No, bad move. I might have been missing something there to the D, but I definitely didn't see it. Fluffy letters. Can I not deduce from the letters in the bag and how they change over time what letters your opponent is holding? Yes, you can, to a limited extent. I actually know that my opponent is still holding a blank right now because we had a word that I challenged off come down earlier, which revealed all 7 tiles that my opponent was holding a few turns ago when he tried roofied on here. And also, you'll notice that right now there's 39 left in the bag. Once the bag empties, then you have perfect information about the remaining tiles that are on your opponent's side. As you get closer and closer to depleting the bag, you have a more and more definite sense of what is still available and what your opponent is holding. Now, at a very advanced level, the other thing that players are able to do is they are able to make good inferences about what their opponent has. I think we need to go here. Unless I want to open up down here. Because right now I'm behind and I just don't have space to work with. So there are some situations where you can say about your opponent, well, he wouldn't have gone there if he actually held such and such a tile. Because if he had held such and such a tile, he would have played in this other place. And so that's kind of an advanced approach to this game. 10 points there, but it opens up. We need to open up because we're behind. 12 points here. No, we need to open up. Okay, great, great. This should hit. Somehow. We've got lots of things that we can do with this rack. My opponent, of course, still also holds the blank, so there is a bit of a threat that he will hit something first. But we have a whole bunch of stuff. We have standee, we have the whole stain, destain, etc. set. We have a whole bunch of stuff that we can look at, but I think we'll need to see the shape of the board first. I don't know, we could have something that tags onto O. That's something to keep in mind in case the lanes on the bottom do get obstructed. And then we'll see. I mean, might be something just through the L as well, but I think the best bet is to use the S hook. Although, like I said, with my opponent holding the blank, it's likely that he will hit something first. Especially after a small 2-tile play. So after a small play like that, I mean, sometimes it's just for the points. He's got too many vowels. But something that also happens is that a small play might mean that your opponent is building up to something that he's very close to hitting. I'll see what I can do about this. In case there's a good fit there that will not be too vulnerable to stuff. And sated, I think, is good. This is still going to leave tons of lanes open, but at least the vowel hotspots are not being hit very hard. So I'm slightly ahead, but my opponent's holding the blank, so I don't particularly feel ahead. I think that if he rebalances his rack well, then I'm likely to be. hit pretty hard. Having the Y here is not great. If we can do something about that, so for example, you know, play duty or something up here. Atheize. I guess you make someone an atheist. That's really interesting. I think that's almost certainly good, but I want to check it, so... Okay, let's just take the hit there. That's probably just a winning play at this point with 15 left in a bag. It's going to be very difficult to catch that. But we should draw towards it anyway. Currently, vowel consonant balance is fairly even. We need to keep lanes open. That's the most important thing. Get rid of the Y and a U is also fairly important, especially with the Q already down. We want to keep this open. Let's not play around there. So, no, we want to get rid of the U. Maybe something like that. It's a bit vowel heavy. And a D doesn't really open up. We don't actually have much of a spot to work with because we can't extend that. So I'm trying to find something that will allow me to hook further. I don't know if I can find that. I mean, we could also just stretch all the way here. That's extremely risky. Because I'll almost certainly just jump on that right away. But we kind of need the space, otherwise there's just no chance of coming back. Reckless, but yeah, we're just drawing too many vowels. So yeah, this is going to be a losing game at this point. But sometimes as you get into the later parts of the game, you kind of need to do some reckless stuff. EUOI would be something I can play off somewhere, maybe. It might not even go down. And I'm just trying to find good spots for this. 11 in the bag, I'm unlikely to benefit very much from an exchange. Yeah, that's going to hit hard. Oddly enough, this will go. So yeah, we'll play this out. This is very clearly a loss. And I guess maybe I should have found something that would be a bit more closed up. Like using the blank, for example, as a tile that would be more of a blocking tile. Like if I was able to find something on this rack that would have scored but prevented additional plays, that would probably have been a better idea. So I feel like I just picked the wrong bingo here, and we'll look over that, I think, when we have time after the game. That if I had just picked something different and maybe gone this way and sacrificed points and ended on the S, for example, then I would have been at far less risk of being hit in return. And knowing that my opponent held the blank and that he was close to something, I should have been thinking that way instead. Especially because there weren't too many alternative lanes open. So I think that playing in this position here with Unsated was actually a strategic error. Cordial Snail, number 30. Yeah, we'll bring that up very soon, given that I'm just about to lose this game. But we'll close it out first, and then we'll bring that one up. Yeah, because I'm looking at this and thinking... I mean, C would have been something like stanced. But that's... No, and that wouldn't have fit. But if you... I'm looking at that... Yeah, if I played like Advents or something... That would maybe have been way better. Like, I should have considered Advents, actually. I'm looking at that now, and I really, really should have thought that turn through much more carefully than I did. AY, I believe, actually takes a U on the end in this lexicon. Let me see if there's anything I can actually do with that information. This will take a D. This will also take an I here. I don't think I'll have anything that ends with U or UN. One in the bag. This is going to be a bit of a tricky situation. Also notice that my opponent has remaining S, so he's likely to hit me really hard. You know what? No, we have something. There we go. Okay, and I'd actually draw the S as the last tile in the bag. Yeah, I was definitely thinking too hard about hotspots and not thinking hard enough about the fact that my opponent wants a bingo lane at that point. And if I had taken the time to look, I think I would have seen advents very clearly if I was prioritizing looking at blocking tiles like the C and the V. Because the V would have ended up here, the V would have actually doubled up anyway and given me some decent points. And that closes up like crazy, like you don't have bingo spots over the V. And yeah, that was, I think, a major blunder. I think sometimes I just know that I play slowly enough that when I see a bingo, I sometimes want to play it to get back on track in terms of time, and maybe that was a bit of an issue over here. I believe SAI is good in Collins. Let me just see here. 15 there, 14 there. Anything I can do with another spot? I don't think so. Looking at this spot here too. No, I think we just take it. So yeah, that's going to be a loss. I think it was very clear how that could have been avoided. You know, it would not have been total control of the board or anything, but considering that I was tying up the game with this play, that was a bit of a game-losing mistake. I mean, he likely would have got something down at some point anyway, but the longer I kept the board under control and kept up with score, the better that would have gone. Anyway, we do have a reward redemption, so let me take care of that very quickly. Because Cordial Snail is going to request number 30. So, let's see if we can bring up the reading screen. Also, it's kind of nice to read this one over. The Metroid music in the background. This is going to be a good fit. Number 30. When to the sessions of sweet, silent thought, I summon up remembrance of things past. I sighed a lack of many a thing I sought, and with old woes, new wail my dear time's waste. Then can I drown an eye, unused to flow, for precious friends hid in depths of dateless night, and weep afresh love's long since cancelled woe, and moan the expense of many a vanished sight. Then can I grieve at grievances forgone, and heavily from woe to woe tell over the sad accounts of forebemoaned moan, which I knew pay as if not paid before. But if the while I think on thee, dear friend, all losses are restored, and sorrows end. So yeah, thank you for that. The thing that my opponent just brought up is actually a good point, that if I had advents here, A, D, V, E... Yeah, he's kind of looking at that, and we're just talking in the background about whether he would have had a good counterplay with Z, which was very likely if I had played advents in that spot. Because he would be looking at something like a Z, maybe on this location, or... Yeah, but of course I don't know he has Z, and I do know he has to blank. So I think Advents, given the information I had, would have been the best play, even if he did have a huge counterplay coming into that. Like, with the information I had, I think I made a bad move. But let's take a look. And thank you for the GGs. And I don't know how much time I have before our next pairing, because like I said, we have a really small group today. And so things might go pretty quickly. But we'll just put up the analyzer and see how things go. So yeah, Barman, I was pretty happy with that. I wanted to turn over to get myself out of the queue situation as soon as possible. Parter's good position there, I think. You know, obviously this might have been vulnerable given the right vowels, but I think it's a decent play. QI, pretty clear. QIS, no, wouldn't have burned the S like that. Quode, that's very much a Collins word. What did he actually end up going with? He ended up going with that dump over there, which actually really closes up quite a bit. On that end, I mean, right side is still wide open at that point. And, yeah, whoa, okay, so we actually did have something sheer leg. One of the spars of shears, also a sheer leg, S-H-E-E-R. What on earth is that? I actually have no real guidance even looking at the definition of what exactly I'm working with here. Ah, this is the kind of thing I was looking for. I was looking for a double-double play over here. And, yeah, a lot of other odd plays here, but if I'm going to use the S, I think maybe that's better. Of course, this just angles that nice and open, but at this point in the game, that's not going to affect too much. Other than just totally reshaping what's going on. Look at this. This is fantastic. Fooderies as a 9-letter word through the ER. I think that's probably good in both. Yeah, fooderies, just a place you go for dinner. So here, I believe that Reen is a Collins word as well, but it's a valid one. It's a drainage channel. I'm not exactly sure because it's just common tiles. No, it's, yeah, Collins only. We can associate with the Rhineland, perhaps. But roofeed is no good, and I correctly spotted that. I mean, he probably knew the hooks for certain, but I was thinking slip someone a roofie. Like if you're doing that, I thought it was worth checking. Foo was, of course, the play that he found on the next turn, but Fooderies is quite a nice play if you can find it. Like I said, you know, the ER and RE lend themselves quite nicely to 9s if you are looking. Glean is a parallel. No, that's if I didn't challenge. I'm going to challenge, so that's... Oh, that's a miss. I should have known this, and I should have seen it, I think. Langrel, a shot consisting of canister containing irregular pieces of iron formerly used to damage sails and rigging. I was thinking I was so consonant heavy at that point that I was mostly thinking of the L's as parrot, and I just didn't really see that. In spite of looking at the L spot as we saw there. So I'm going to go Glen as well. That's going to be much worse. Also, I wasn't really thinking about the N hook on the back of the Q. QIN is one of the first Collins words you learn, really, but just difficult to spot sometimes. So yeah, Foo is going to be a decent play given what he's working with, especially because Glenn blocked off Fooderies. Gov, I was happy with that. Yeah, I wouldn't have kept the U in situations like that. Obeid. For some reason, I don't think I knew that that took the ED. Wonder if it does in both. I believe it does. If it has the same definition in both. No, it's actually Collins only as well. But as you can see, we're both kind of fumbling around. Ah, this is a miss here. I don't think I knew it, though. Or did I? That is good in both. It's not that far down in probability. I probably should have known it. It might not show up very high in probability lists because of a double L, because double letters really set that back. But I was specifically looking at this spot, and I was probably looking at this kind of combination as well, and I think I just didn't see it because I don't know this confidently. So that's a word to learn from experience here, and yeah, a couple of different positions we can play into. I just totally forgot about this eye hook here, which I believe is also a Collins thing, but one that I had seen before. Refinancing. I guess if you have this on the board somewhere and you put Nancing on it as an extension, that would have been interesting. But so REFI is a refi, I guess. You refinance somebody, you refi them. Oh, this is cool. Dove key. This is one I do know. It's, I think. I don't know why I know it. I had encountered it before. But it, being a Scots word, it looks like it is good in both. That's why I have seen it. I don't know when I'd seen it, but it's a cool one and a really hard one to see. And of course, you know, dangling this hook here. Like I said, I was hoping he would spend his D and that would give me a lane. This was likely to hit pretty hard, so I don't know if that was a good idea, but I wanted a bit of openness created at my opponent's initiative. So yeah, I did not in fact have anything on this rack, so at least I didn't miss something going to the D. I don't think I knew bigger. But even when I was learning the NWL dictionary initially, I found that the jump from 3s to 4s was one of the hardest jumps to make by far, and I'm experiencing that all over again with Collins now when I'm playing it. And yeah, Iga, Biga, Giga, and Viga. So yeah, Job here is going to be a pretty good play. It's also going to be a verb. He is leaving himself in a very vowel-heavy situation, as you can see. He's almost certainly looking at the A hook already, which he eventually uses for the vowel dump. Dill and Gil and... I mean, I was looking at this position, but at this point I was thinking I want to open up for my own bingo. And I did. And so... yeah, look at this, though. He's got Canalize here, and Canalize would have just killed me because of the way the C closes up. I mean, you know, you would have the ZA parallel over here, and you would have S or D going down over here, but, you know, it would be very difficult at this point to come back if he had seen Canalize, building a canal. Canalize or Canalize? I don't know. Even though it is building a canal, I don't know why I mentally pronounce it as Canalize. Canalize. But yeah, lots of stuff that we can work with here. I was looking at Unstated specifically because of this hotspot, but like I said, really should have sacrificed points to go left. Something like Scantle would have been terrific, actually. This would have been really good. Because it's defensive even against the Z that we had seen earlier. But having seen some 7s, I didn't want to look too hard at playing through the L, and I probably should have. So, the rare case of a turn where I actually felt like I played too fast without considering the positional consequences. So yeah, he's going to dump 8 the eyes on me for 108 points, and that is going to be a killer play. Totally seals the game at this point. Oh, totally didn't think about the NY ending here, even though I know that NY, FY, KY are things I miss all the time. So, Yeah, when I place the N here, I just still don't visualize this as being a threat, even though we've run into it several times by now. What did I end up playing? I was trying to open up top, I think, in the top left. All of this would have continued closing up, of course, which I was very reluctant to do, given that I did need a bingo to come back at this point. And a very promising looking rack here, but nothing much to work with. Interestingly enough, this play would not only have scored very well, but due to the lack of anything before XU, I would not really have been able to play out of it very well. And let's take a look here. I mean, I was looking at EUOI. Yeah, we're just making some back-end arrangements for the next round here. And yeah, at this point, I mean, I've lost the game after ATI, so it's just a matter of finding the place. I'm glad I found the place, that I took the time to see something like Fundy. I mean, I was looking at the AYU spot right away, but it didn't look very promising because of the U ending. And I was assuming that my opponent would have the S. Anyway, round 2 is going to begin in just a moment, so... oh, I missed this spot here. Yeah, because agape, of course, isn't just the adjective agape, it's also agape, the Greek love feast practiced by early Christians in connection with the Last Supper. Alternatively, a term for Christian love. But RAV is something that I still have trouble visualizing, along with a lot of the other V's for E's. So yeah, we're going to be playing a game in the NWL dictionary next, and that's going to start up in just a moment, so let's get back into the lobby. But that's pretty much going to be it for this one here, which we're going to lose by about 80 points. Considering we got hit by that 100-point ATIs, that's not as far back as it could have been, but clearly there were some avoidable situations there. And also some pretty large bingo misses on both sides. Some harder to see than others. Yeah, tough board to work with for the first half, though, so... Alright, next game. So I am going to go first, once again. And I feel like there actually is something here. It looks very familiar, this rack. Like I've solved it before. But we're not going to spend too long on it. Probably just going to... Is this good? No, I don't know. There's something very close to that. It looks plausible, doesn't it? Like, it looks like something that I have found before. But if it's not something that I know for sure, like, we have a rack that has enough potential going into the next turn that I can afford to have a miss. So, for example, if we just go pack or pick, you know, the nice thing about pick is that we can have quite a lot going down on both sides. It doesn't take S in front anymore, though, I don't think. Yeah, I probably don't want to be doing a big play like Caper. Let's just play for the leaf. I feel like I definitely missed something on that rack, though. But I just don't remember it well enough to know what is valid. So we'll jot that down for later. Okay, yeah, he's going to go down there. S would, of course, go down in front of Spice. Can something be unraked? Not that it goes down anywhere. Actually, no, you have to ED down here. Like if you have leaves that are unraked? I don't know. Something. I don't know. I have my doubts about that. One thing we can take a look at is the CK combination, though. I feel like if I just play off the K and a U somehow, maybe that would be decent. Also going to look at things like ING as usual. I don't think so. K and a U are just not going to play very well together in this situation. But I'm trying to see if I can find like a compound word that will have a CK ending. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't quite have something to play through for something like unranked, rather. Unparked? Like an unparked car? I don't know. Let's try it. I'm not confident in that. Yeah, welcome. It feels like I was considering a lot of stuff that just didn't look very good. I was considering unparked, unraked. Oh, he's just going to take it. Okay, that's fine. Solves my problem. Kudzu, we are pretty heavy on vowels right now, otherwise we would be able to do something. I think we just need to play off some of this stuff. Very tempting to just dangle this in the middle of nowhere. Leave ES. That's almost certainly a horrible idea. Also, maybe something like this, which would not score much, but open up slightly. No, it's still a very vowel-heavy leave. Just trying to see if I can play off here and there. Create some room. This is fine too, I just don't really want to keep LIS, even though we could use the S there in that spot. Yeah, Pool is really running through some of the E's. Ukraine. Is Ukraine actually playable? I don't know. Like one of those many countries that are playable, like Japan or something. Co-ed. Let's do that. 14, pretty safe. R is, of course, not placed in a good place for something like Glossier. Yeah, I didn't think so. I think Glossies is also good if we have an S to play into, but probably what I'll do is I'll just play something off here and take advantage of the S hook on Kudzu. Yeah, this opening rack is still bothering me. Like, I don't remember if it was Pecrine or Caprine or something like that. It's something that looks like that, and I just don't know. A mid is going to go with a mid-do, of course, if we have something that will use the O. I don't think there is a Glosseed, though. You can have Glossier, Glossies. I don't think you can have Glosseed. One thing we should look at, once again, is ING over here as well, but I don't think that's going to be anything Not quite something like lassoing, unfortunately. Yeah, maybe even something like logs. No. Scores very poorly. And then, still using that spot? No, I mean, we can think about this for a moment. Maybe just... Will anything go into that? Something dogs. Isle of Dogs. Unfortunately, not quite. This is also totally an X-bomb spot here. It's waiting to happen. Oh, should look into this, maybe. If there is anything that will go. Failing that, we'll probably just play off the S somehow. Undouble it. Yeah. I mean, Amido, I think we'll still take another S into it, and we can probably do something over here. And yeah, momentarily saying, first one was a loss. I made what was kind of a positional error, and I got hit by a 100-point counterplay from my opponent. I'm staring at this one for too long, for sure. The other thing I can do is also just go clog over here. Oh, I like that, actually. Maybe. Because it gives myself an S spot to work with on the next turn. Scores almost nothing, though. But right now, we'll be making some kind of small play with the X. Oh, hey, we've got the X. So, X makes two-letter words with every kind of vowel, which is wonderful, because you can do stuff like this, or this, or maybe even this. Add an additional 10 points with one of the S's. I like that. I think this is going to be a play. It's going to take an A on top for axis, but I don't care. I'm going to make sure that we don't have anything down here, or for example, sexiness, if we have something else to play into. Like another S. No other S on the board. So no sexiness for us today. Okay. J over here. Yeah, tactics, you're probably thinking of eulogizes through a U. And Bird Dog, welcome. So... oh yes, and I think Amid also takes E for Amide, so we'd look at something like Jeers at 64 points. That's likely to be my next play, if it remains open. Because it's Amido, Amide, all the chemistry terms, basically. And so that's going to be my first choice play for sure, if it remains open. If it does not remain open, we can do Jeer down here. It does dangle a J on the triple lane, but I'm getting a ×4 off that J because it's got a double letter and a double word. So usually I find that those plays are actually worth it, as long as you're confident that your opponent isn't going to do something like that. But 47 there, 64 there, I think that's worth the S. Okay, we're in good shape. This word here takes an I in front. Also the F and some other conventional things like that. We're close to something here. I don't think there's something in this rack, unless it's an 8-letter word. But we'll just make some kind of play to get rid of some vowels, perhaps. And we're close to something. If there's a G, you have stuff like egestion. But yeah, pay attention to this here. I mean, obviously we're a bit closed off now with the ATT, but that's a potential spot still. And yeah, well spotted if you also saw Jeers in this location. I'm looking at the D here to see if maybe we could have had something through it. But I think likely what I'll do is I'll just make a small play that gets rid of the O, perhaps. I don't know what that would be. Like maybe just into, but that leaves me with something a bit vowel heavy. Just gonna think about this for a moment, just so we can kill that spot. Yeah, let's just do it. And we're in great shape. Look at this. Great shape here. So yeah, this is likely to be something through the D, at the very least. We had better figure out what that is going to be. There is going to be not quite rereads, but retreads maybe no. Hey, look at that. It's Metroid Dread. Let's think about this though, because we'll have a lot of other places for 7-letter words. I'm trying to find... I don't remember if taxis takes the A in front, because there's ataxia, but I don't think there is ataxis. Because ataxia, ataxis, but I don't think it's ataxis, and I think I've seen that before and probably challenged it. We might have something through here as well. So let's see if we can find something here or here, because I think it's likely. I'll be very disappointed, in fact, we can't find it. Also, this is still available if we have like a P or an F or an I that goes in front of LEA. So let's think about this. I want to take a look at this for a moment because we almost certainly have something. Predates. No. Yeah, probably can't finding addressee. Addressee. Don't really have a good place for. Wait, how do you spell that? Address. See, no. That's. We don't have the tiles for that. But that's potentially something to take a look at for this spot. I feel like I absolutely have something. I just can't see it. Like what, a D-E-R-S ending? Yeah, just going to think about this in my head. I can't believe I don't see it. There absolutely has to be something here. Headers, shared, just a whole bunch of 7-letter words that don't go down. Yeah, this will maybe take a moment as I try to figure this out. Yeah, unfortunately, Tactics 47, nothing here from Eton College in Windsor. There absolutely has to be something. I think that maybe the tripled E is unlikely to give me anything, but... Okay, let's not stare at this for too long. Let's just play off somehow. Maybe just play off a few tiles. That does open up the triple lane, but that's okay. We want lanes. I feel like I definitely missed something. But anyway, we have a rack that's good enough that I have a second chance. And let's see. How do I still not have something? Yeah, headdress would be with the additional D. Momentarily saying the problem with dearest is that as a 7-letter word, it didn't fit anywhere. I saw a lot of different 7-letter words, but I was looking specifically for an 8-letter word that would go here, here, or here. 7-letter words that used the blank as an F or a P or an I would also be good because that would go down here. Speaking of which, we have punters down here. That's a choice. Let's not burn too much time on this, but I will keep that in mind as a first choice in case we don't find anything here. Just trying to look at this to see if we actually have anything unsorted. Yep, unsorted. Or unstored. Whoops. Does leave the U in a bit of a weird spot, but there's no X to take advantage of that, so we'll just take it. But yeah, we had looked at stuff like the dearest fairly early on. It's just that there was no way that was going down. Okay, we have a bit more of a difficult rack now. We have the F, which is good because the F, like I said, is going to go in front of Lee. And so is the P, for that matter. But right now, in terms of my opponent's comeback opportunities, the best comeback opportunity for him, well, I mean, the remaining pool of tiles is, as you can see, pretty ugly right now. There is a Q with no U remaining. So that's something to keep your eye on for the rest of the game, is what happens to the Q. P is going to fit on top of YA as well. He seems to be trying to open something there. So in fact, it might be fine for me to do just to go something like that. I do want to do something with that V, though, if I can. But I probably want to close off, given that he's obviously trying to create space. And yeah, now I can do something next to the H as well, as long as that doesn't get taken first. So for example, vote or veto on the next turn would be a good play. 5 would be even better if you have 5 down here, that's 39 points. So that's likely to be my first choice given the current circumstances, unless we find a good way to block off. Or if an A is dangling in the middle of nowhere, we can have put down favorite in the American spelling. So that's unlikely to happen given the current shape of the board, because it's hard to imagine how an A can be dangled in a location that will actually give me that space. It's almost impossible, in fact, unless you're having like small plays up here or some kind of impossible play down here. It's not going to happen. But it's always nice to look at that kind of thing in case it does happen. Keep in mind, too, that F will go down here eventually if the opportunity presents itself. So we'll see if any of that comes together. But right now, it looks like my first choice is going to be 5. I'm way ahead right now, so I'm not too concerned, especially because the remaining bag looks very ugly. One of the reasons why we might not want to play off the I is that with all the U's gone, the I would be the most useful way to get out of trouble with the Q. Because right now this board, you can see its current shape and how there's almost nothing you can do if you pick up the Q. You would want to be going towards like a Q play like QAID or QADI. You would want to hold out for some kind of spot for like QAT, like these 3 tiles here maybe, unless I take them first. But when you don't have the U remaining in the bag, usually you're going to be looking for some kind of place to play a small word like QI or QAT, so you don't get stuck with an unplayable Q at the very end. And it looks like we're in a situation where it's definitely a threat at this point, and it makes me very glad that I'm this far ahead, because if it is a close game, you start to get yourself into a situation where both players are trying to not be stuck with the queue, and it's kind of this game of keep away in a way where there's yeah, he's going to exchange 2. I think it's actually somewhat likely that he put the queue in the bag. Now, I'm far enough ahead at this point that I'm able to take the hit of being stuck with the queue. I am much less concerned about it than he would be. So I think I just go for it. Unless we really do want to keep the eye in hand and play something like veto for 9 fewer points. But yeah, 2 Ys left in the bag, 2 As as well. This is going to be a bit of a tough call. Benefit of keeping the F, of course, is that F still helps me on the right side if necessary, but T does that as well. Let's just play off. Is it possible to really come back from an almost 200-point deficit this late in the game? This late, usually not with the tiles that you're seeing in the bag. That's why some players, especially players who play a lot of Blitz, do tend to favor a format that encourages resignations. Usually, though, the norm in tournament and club play is that you play through the game, because the difference at the end of the game gets added up over time as part of your tournament statistics, right? Where it becomes a tiebreaker over the course of many rounds. So sometimes you just get killed by 200 points and you have to live with it, and I've been on both ends of that many, many times. It is possible, though, but your opponent has to be very incautious for that to happen. The most frequent way for a huge deficit like that to be cleaned off is if somebody just dangles a tile in the triple lane, and then somebody who's way behind can play through something that is a ×9 because it hits both triples. So that is usually going to be at least like 150 points or something. It's always going to absolutely kill you. So those situations, if you're playing carefully, are generally avoidable. But as you can see, you want to give yourself tons of headroom, especially with a queue situation like this. So you're asking if somebody can come back from a 200-point deficit. Well, if you make a play this big, and you get into a situation where one player has an unplayable queue, yes, you can. It actually does happen. It's a very tricky thing to make happen for you, but it's always a risk that you have to be aware of as you get into the late game, that you don't want to be so confident in your lead that you miss potential losing situations like that. I think I just do something like this at this point. I should keep a vowel. I should keep a vowel and leave 1 in the bag. Although, yeah, this is 36 points. This is 35. Let's see if maybe there's something better that I can do over here. I think we're just going to go Mog. And then the idea is that I want to draw... There are 4 tiles in a bag. If I draw the Q, I want to also draw either an I or an A. If I don't draw either of those, then I'm going to be stuck with the Q. Now, I believe that this is actually the word Rattoon, not to be confused with Splatoon. So if there is a spot to play it, we'll play it, but I do not believe there will be a spot. Oh! Yeah, I totally didn't see that. My vision for 2s is awful. So unfortunately in Scrabble, in either dictionary, you cannot be one of the knights who say ni. That's an easy way to remember, by the way, that the word ni is not good. Is that Monty Python doesn't play here. That's how I originally learned it, anyway. So yeah, I mean, this spot still might do something, but at this point, with one tile left on the bag, my opponent almost certainly has a Q situation. He will have QI. QI does have his natural spot up here. QI is going to score 23 points in that location, but it has almost nowhere else to go. So if I get the chance, if, for example, the Q is the very last tile in the bag, and my opponent picks it up now, then the optimal thing for me to do will be to block this spot and prevent any other alternatives from coming down. So, yeah, that will be the play, that if the Q does not come down this turn, and if no additional spaces are created, I block this location. And then I can show you what a big difference the Q endgame will make. That should be part of the challenge. Say me to your opponent. Yeah, exactly. That is exactly what you should be doing. Yeah, so QI, as expected, goes down. He probably had some reluctance there. Well, no, I mean, that's clearly the play, but there might be some things going on here with the vowel heaviness of the remaining pool, so... So yeah, let's see what we can do. Ratoon isn't going to go down anywhere, so we'll kill that idea. But the N will go down in this location. I probably don't want to give the triple spot away, but right now my opponent has DHLOVY. Yeah, he's going to have a lot of trouble playing off some of that stuff. So we can just think about scoring, really. I don't really have anything that goes down here. Yeah, let's just take our time with this. Looking at this location, not really. Yeah, something like tat there, or... Well, we should usually, in this kind of situation, think about whether we have a sequence of plays that will allow me to play off all my tiles in 2 moves. And the idea is that you want to be the first one to exhaust a bag before your opponent does so. So for example, if I do... No. Something like this. No. But maybe... Yeah, if I can find a good way to do that, it's good practice even if you are way ahead. I don't really see a good sequence though, but at least I'm not desperate for a big out sequence to happen. No, I probably want to keep the N. Like if I can figure out something like, for example, that, or RAT. Yeah, no, that's going to be what I'll do, I think. There aren't going to be any big 2-tile plays off this because YU is only good in the outer dictionary. So this will be how I do it. Is I play off these tiles here, and then I'll be looking to do tune as my final play. If this spot is taken, then we'll just do something else. What that something else is, I don't exactly know yet, but we'll figure it out as we go. But yeah, some games when they are actually close getting into the end game, we'll have situations where these kind of tactics matter quite a bit, that you will win or lose games based on your ability to play out the final 2 or 3 moves. And it's one of the biggest things that you have to develop as you learn how to play this. You know, being able to see a situation where you're, say, 30, 40 points behind at the end and figuring out how to come back with a good, quick sequence of plays that will guarantee you enough points to get by. Lexley plays YEH, 12F to get rid of some heavy tiles. Yeah, let me see about that. YEH 12F. Oh, yeah, here, okay. Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's the natural hotspot. That's really the only good consonant hotspot. I was kind of thinking about this spot for A plus consonant, but that doesn't score very much, and it would not really be in the interest of an out and two. But I was originally hoping that it would be able to play here first, and then keep a T for plays that are in either of the T locations. But this likely would have opened up some danger, and right now the U is useful for me in that my N is able to use it, but my opponent is not able to use it in... Well, he's not able to use it. I mean, in Collins, of course, you would be looking at stuff like VLY. That would be pretty clearly something that you would consider, but... And so if I am playing Collins, I need to be mindful of U spots like this, because the Y could really hit hard. Or 40 or 50 points if we leave ourselves open to that kind of situation. 12E. No, I think you meant 12H, right? Y on 12F, rather. 12F. Yeah, YEH, exactly. So yeah, we'll take the win. Unparked is not good. Unparked went unchallenged, and I got away with it. So we'll go back to that turn and we'll see whether there is anything in there, because I was considering all kinds of stuff that all sounded phony, and I was actually kind of surprised at how quickly he played out of that. But if you're looking at UDZU, he was probably thinking, oh, I've got such a horrible rack, let's get rid of some of this stuff right away. But anyway, thank you for the GGs. We'll look over this with the time that we have before we get into game number 3. So let's get to the post-game analysis. So yeah, it is Caprine. I just did not remember whether it was the P and the C or the C and the P, and I just didn't feel confident about any of them. But it is an adjective that is about goats. And it is, I think, the only thing there. Yes, Caprine is the only thing there. So that was a case where I was just unsure about the thing I was holding. And given that it was the first turn, I probably should have tried it if I felt it looked familiar. But I did shy away from playing that word. Don't know if there's anything in the other lexicon as well. No, it's just Caprine. Yeah, because it's so easy to confuse this with other stuff. Particularly all these animal words like porcine, you know, and leporine and all that stuff. So yeah, definitely a bit of a cowardly turn there. Given what I was holding... Actually, panic would have been much nicer, I think, but I sometimes depend a little bit too much on these 3-tile plays at the start, even though they're kind of too fishy for their own good and don't really open the board. Lots of options. I can see why, given CLUW, he might have been reluctant to make a 40-point play here. Because the Z is going to be a bit of an investment in the next turn, so if you look at the valuation here in the analyzer, you'll see that that 17-point difference is almost completely eliminated by the difference in the leave. That the leave evaluation is actually less than a point apart, even though the score is 17 points apart, which means that, you know, For those new to this, it means that keeping CLUW on your rack is about 16 to 17 points worse than keeping ZEU on your rack going into the next turn. And so that's why in a situation like this, you would take the lower scoring play. Okay, unraked is good. So the first one I considered was in fact valid, and is in fact the highest scoring play. Didn't think about unbreak. Unbreak is obviously good. So unpacker. Considering that all I was saying about using the CK, I probably should have seen at least one of the spots for unpacker. But I think I had a bit of tunnel vision for un being matched with something like an ED ending. So I tried unparked, and unparked is no good, but my opponent will just take it immediately. But yeah, unraked is the thing that I actually wanted to play. So. Yeah, curlews would be kind of a nice thing to draw into, miraculously. Good luck trying to actually get that down on the board, though. But yeah, you can kind of see how... Oh, actually, even if he's playing off kudzu, he's got a horrible leave coming out of that. And misses days in this location, but then keep AUU. You can see... Well, I mean, he's far behind after bingo. If he takes unparked, then it probably is right to just take the points. But I don't know. I mean... You know... I played a non-word. My opponent accepted it. That's how it goes sometimes. I was very unlikely to just spend the S directly in this situation, although maybe I should have considered it more carefully, given that it is significantly better than the nearest plays that do not do so. Eco, I guess, is slightly better than co-ed in terms of score, so... Yeah, I wouldn't have played that. If I'm using the S anyway, of course I'd try to bring it in. And let's see here. Yeah, sorry, just arranging the next match right now. So, let's see here. Yeah, we're just getting the pairings arranged for next round, so pardon the momentary break in the action. But amid keeping AEF. Let's see. Okay, so this I just didn't know. I've never seen this. Glioses. Plural of gliosis, a pathological proliferation of glial cells. Okay. Yeah, we'll punch that in. So, a lot of these weirder ones with double S are things that don't come up too often. And X's, oh, well, no, I think keeping the E is probably better here. The evaluator disagrees, of course, but interestingly, if you do play X's there, I have the S to play something on top. So that would create an additional lane for me, but I liked the fact that I kept the E for the amide lane. And that ended up paying off very handsomely when it picked up the J afterwards. And yeah, so Gier's very clearly going to be in play here. As you can see, it's evaluating at 7 points higher than the play without the S, but I think given the position, given that you're not giving away the J up top, I think it's absolutely worthwhile to spend the S here. Very clear. Yeah, so no bingo on this rack, as I suspected.
Playing off OE somewhere is best, but I thought positionally would just get rid of that. And that's okay, we're in a decent position afterwards. Okay, so let's take a look at this turn because I missed everything. I would not have spotted this. Herides. Let's put that into the chat so you can all stare at what a spectacular play it is. Degrades I really should have seen, considering how long I was looking at the S. Oh, sorry, at the D. I wouldn't necessarily have seen some of this stuff like resaddle. Oh, redheads, of course. We were looking at stuff using a head anyway. And I just didn't think about a word like redheads and D-beards. But I feel like something like degrades I absolutely should have been able to see. So. Nothing on my opponent's side, really. It's just some smaller scoring plays, which would have closed up quite a bit. So lots of stuff down here. Unrusted, strunted. We end up going unsorted, and that's probably fine. Subtrend would have been good if we were in a lexicon or in a situation where a play over to U would have continued rather to be a threat. But that was clearly going to be some kind of bingo rack. Pivot here would have been much, much better than what I played because the V blocks off parallels. This lane down here would have been a bit of a threat, though, going down here. But that would have not been too much of a threat given the remaining pool, I think. And given how far ahead it was. So yeah, at this point you can see my opponent is holding decent tiles plus Q. And yeah, 5 is going to be the play, and you can see that he exchanged LQ. At this point, though, the problem with doing that is that he doesn't really have a place to work with, but you can see that he actually is trying to draw towards one of the ends, and he does end up doing so and playing swearing down here, because that's the only lane at this point, and you're only really likely to use it if you pick up one of the 2 remaining ends. Unless, of course, you are using this lane, so. Maybe a QL exchange. And the idea behind it, too, is that if he sticks me with the Q, then that's one of the best comeback opportunities that's available. So. Groom, didn't consider that. But given the situation with 4 in the bag and a Q unseen, I think I played reasonably. A Torn, no, I didn't want to give the A away in that. Or create a situation where my opponent could make big plays over here. I think I was okay. Alright, let's get into round 3. Round 3 is also going to be in the current lexicon. In NWL, the North American word list. And I will once again be going first. And yeah, we play pretty much every week. Okay, so a bit of a vowel-heavy situation here with some clunky stuff. If I can see something like a 5-letter word, that would be great. If not, let's see what we can do. I actually think I should just play off as much as I can. I don't really like that leave necessarily. Also, we know from previous experience that Agape takes an S. But do I have something better here? That dumps to U, ideally. Like something like a... Maybe just play Ague here somewhere. 10... 18... I actually think... Yeah, I mean... Positionally, that's going to be at risk of a bunch of stuff, but... V up front... sure, let's just do that. Not great positioning. But I felt like we really need to do something about the vowel trouble there, so... The vowel placements early on, of course, are going to be vulnerable to parallel plays. Like this, taking advantage of the E spot. But it was balancing that against a risk of, say, a play going down here to the E, or tagging in an S on the finish. And a U is probably one of the less risky tiles to play dead center. You'd have, you know, UN starts, for instance. But in general, we're less threatened by this stuff than by having the E in the center square. These are really minor optimizations, though, and I think that's... Sometimes it's easy to obsess a little too much about the opening play when it's also a play that's going to have, in some sense, the least effect on the overall swing in your win percentage. And yeah, Zoa is going to hit that for 32. Let's see what we can do. Might just go down here with something. Down in the pit of Panga. I think Panga actually is good, and I know that because... I think most people here know this, but Panga is the username of a very famous Mario streamer. Who actually has played some word games on a stream in the past. But I think I will keep the A, and I'll just keep that hook in mind. I believe Panga actually is a playable thing, though. This is Angelic. Angelic also goes with Angelica. I don't know if there's anything else in this. I think it might... There might be something else. Yeah, there's Angelic, there's Anglese, which is like a word for English, like the English language. And there should be something else in here that I'm not really seeing, perhaps with the ing ending. None of this will actually go down, by the way. Except for maybe something like Angelic, which, well, C is not going to be the worst thing you put in that position. But it's quite possible that whatever we have here might just be blocked. Ilex is good, so we'll just probably do Angelic down here. And that will be how we play out of that. Once again, pretty decent draw. I don't think this is going to be anything. I think maybe there is something through an N. I'm trying to remember, because butane is good, but I'm trying to remember if ketane is good, and I think ketane might actually be okay. Not that we have the right tiles for that. You know, if you have ketanes through an N. I don't know if I'm just confusing that with something else, though. I might just be confusing that with butane. But if you have something like an an L, the C unfortunately blocks me off from playing something like Leakiest. Because... Beakiest. Why, thank you. It's very rare that we'll just be given stuff like this. We're just having a very fortunate situation here. An unusually fortunate situation, I would say, where we're just given stuff. I should actually spend more time sometimes looking before playing in terms of positions like that, in case you have something better. I don't think there's anything else in Beakiest, though. So, but sometimes there are some racks where you have unexpected anagrams. So, for example, if we had an N, for instance, you would see something like beatniks. But one thing that you would know immediately if you know the anagrams of the set is that beatniks is also an anagram of snakebit. And so sometimes you kind of want to take enough time to look at both positions. Obviously, snakebit would not fit here. But if the B were just kind of dangling in the middle of nowhere, you would make sure that you take the time to actually see both and consider both. Beakiest, I think, is just there by itself, though. And yeah, Angelic, Anglis, and Galenic. Galenic is the one that I missed. And Galenic, I don't think, really would have gone down anywhere anyhow. Except, of course, in the same position as Angelic. So I'm pretty comfortable right now, even though I've drawn into a difficult situation. Definitely looking at this location as well in case it becomes useful. I don't have the right vowels to go under the W right now, so this location will not be useful to me. If I have something that ends with R here, that could be pretty decent, but right now I mostly want to get rid of the V, if I can, and maybe U. You can't always have everything you want, but I don't really want to spend the S, though, on something like pervs, even though that does get me out of a lot of trouble. So I'm just going to take a moment here to see if there is anything here that will be a bit better. I think something like Rev is actually fine. Very few points, but it does get me out of that immediate trouble, as well as blocking off this potential comeback lane. Okay, so this is the point where I do not remember if Fakir is also spelled with the U. It's definitely good just by itself like this, but I don't remember if this is also fine. It would be amazing if it is, and I'm far enough ahead that I think I kind of want to try it. Failing that, though, Fakir is likely going to be what we play somewhere. Also, not Collins right now, but Collins has that spectacular word. I think what I will in fact try is Fakir's over here with the UI. Like I said, I don't remember if that will actually be fine, but it does in fact go in both positions as well. I'm far enough ahead that I can afford to lose a turn by trying it if it's not actually valid. It's just too good to pass up. I don't want to look at it afterwards and think, oh, I should have played that one, when it was clearly in front of me. But the safe thing to do if you're not sure, of course, is just to play Fakir by itself. And you know what? I totally forgot, too, that when I was holding the V, that the V goes in front of Agu for Vag. I don't think I really had anything good beginning with the V that would be at least 4 letters last turn, though, but if we somehow end up with the other V, and this location is still open, then that's something we should consider, especially because this part of the board isn't going to extend very much otherwise. You have a threat that something that begins with RE or RA will come down here, but Zoa is not going to take anything in the back. So the main thing that's going to happen in the top left of the board, in terms of how it's going to open up, is if you have something like a V play down here. That's probably less likely than a big play coming down here in the long run. But as you can see, as you look forward to the rest of the game, bottom left is going to be a bit clunky to open up, and we would expect that. I'm feeling very comfortable in my current position now. I think we're in extremely good shape. just given how lucky the start was. The other thing that we can do, obviously, is something like this. It dangles the Q, but in a spot that's not horrible in terms of whether you can capitalize on it with the triple word score. But if we get into a situation where the Q is kind of stuck with us, that's one way to get out. So we have a couple of different options. Yeah, going to be a bit of a long turn while we figure out. Okay, so Slinger. So I'm in a much less safe position. The safe thing to do is just to go Fakirs for 46. Oh, it's so tempting though, 98 points. Moreover, we still have other options if this turns out to be not good. So for example, you know, the Q is still going to be a threat. Even if this doesn't go. I have to try it. I have to try it. Otherwise, I will just be wondering for the rest of the game. It's too good to pass up. And if it gets kicked off, it gets kicked off. Like, we might lose the game for that, but it's nice to be in a situation where you have the Q and you don't feel like you are limited in terms of options. And either way, we are going to learn something, yeah. That's a good attitude to take towards playing phonies all over the place. He's going to take it, so I think he probably knows it confidently. And now, of course, you're quite welcome to check it in the bot. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Really in a difficult situation with all these consonants, but probably just going to play off all these doubled consonants like this, deft, and leave it at that, unless there's a better play that we can look at. I think that's going to be it. And okay. Still in decent shape here. I mean, in a bit of a weird situation when it comes to how consonant heavy we still are, but we do have ways to get rid of that. Also notice that if you have an E, E is going to go on the end here, and yeah, just as I said that, he takes it. It should also take a D in the end, so if we really don't have a better idea, we'll just go OD here, and we'll still be in a bad situation, but it does close off this lane here. So even if I am looking at a pretty ugly rack, that's not a bad play, I don't think. I may even do it, yeah. Yeah, it does mean that we're still in this very consonant-heavy situation. Mostly from that double T. We should probably get rid of that. And we'll see. I actually don't know, something like Mutator. Only 10 points or so. Doesn't really close up. You can see that there's room for something like an ES ending. So we should be thinking about some other spots, maybe. I really don't want to touch this location right now, because anything I do will likely just make my position worse. But at this point, I can probably just afford to make some small plays here and there and just keep the board positionally somewhat closed. Maybe even... Yeah, OS isn't going to take anything on the end that we have, so... Probably nothing there. It's... You know, even just small plays, 20 points or so at a time, just to stay ahead without creating too many issues. Notice, of course, that this spot here is a bit of a risk. And unfortunately, I don't really have much that will deal with it. As it would be nice to, you know, put something like Mutant there, something just to close up, but it doesn't really close up, because it actually just opens up more dangerous locations. Blank remains in a bag. Most of the power tiles are gone other than the J. So it is possible that my opponent will be quite close to something. The main lanes that he will be looking at are here, and possibly here. So these are the danger zones that we're looking for. And yeah, going to rebalance his rack a little bit there. And maybe we should just dump some stuff. 10 points keeps keeps RT rather. RT is going to be good in terms of drawing towards something that I can do in either spot. But it does start to close off the board a little bit. It doesn't score very much, but why didn't I consider Tantrum? We have a Tantrum. I just saw it. Okay, hey, you know what? We've got to play. Okay, that solved itself. And yeah, so that's going to be mildly dangerous, but unless you have something like a J play going down here, we're far enough ahead that it shouldn't matter. Dangling the S below Tantrum is bad, but we will hopefully not be hit with it. And I'm going to draw an S, so I have the ability to play down here. I have the ability to play something down here if we want to close up the more dangerous location. So, for example, you can do something like moves, 51 points. Vest, 43 points, but much better for closing off the thing that is likely to be the biggest threat. And yeah, he's going to take Deity over there for 54. That's very good. Yeah, I think 2 E's, 2 O's in a bag. We want to get rid of the V, for sure. I think that's pretty clear. And I'm going to draw the other blank, which is embarrassingly fortunate. And Fakir's is good with the UI. Excellent, excellent. I'm glad I had decent judgment there. Probably not going to try to go for some kind of spectacular ending bingo here. We'll just make small plays to keep ahead. Probably with something like Monty. Unless the pool depletes to something that looks really promising. But given that you have things like J, W, B, etc. in there, and actually lots of vowels, 8 vowels, 5 consonants currently unseen, I think it's unlikely that I will be trying to do anything really fancy. I think we'll just probably prioritize a play like Monty and just try to get into a position where I can play out very quickly. And Veg goes unplayed once again. Yeah, that's a good point. This is why sometimes it's good to take notes about this sort of thing. When I play over the board, I do in fact sometimes jot down hooks that I think are going to be hard to see later. Because otherwise you're just going to forget. And I probably should have jotted that down here. Because that would have been a good place to play off MOST instead. Unless you have some kind of massive extension that ends with most. There probably are some massive extensions that end with most. I don't use a notepad enough for stuff other than bingos and endgame and tracking my opponent's rack. And I should, in fact, do more with it. Yeah, 2 tiles, 4 in a bag. Playing something like Monty would empty the bag, which... I'm looking at the pool right now, though, and I really don't see anything that would be a big threat to go out. I mean, it's very close to stuff like, you know, Wurali or something, or whatever, but there aren't quite the tiles to make that happen. It's just too vowel heavy. So I think I just deplete 4. Depleting 4 is actually fine, because I draw into a 7-tile rack, and I could very well have an out bingo. For all you know, with this lane open, this lane open, this lane open. I'm probably in a better position to do that than my opponent. So yeah, not quite at joined, but we're going to be in a decent situation here going out. Yeah, given that I was holding the blank, I felt very safe here. He is actually very close to that. I'm going to tell him that. Not quite there, because of that pesky R. But, you know, given that I had the Y very late, it's entirely possible. Anyway, D is going to go down here. Likely my best play is going to be joined. If he somehow dangles an R in front of me, maybe we'll just try a joiner or something. But I don't think I have anything else here. Let's take a look, though, just to make sure. But yeah, this was just a luck box of a game for me. Just drew spectacularly well. It just had a lot of the positions fed to me at the right time. And, you know, that's pretty much how it goes. Sometimes everybody has their turn on both sides of this, and I did nearly miss Tantrum, though. I was literally about to just commit another play when I saw Tantrum. Because this is one rack where, you know, you don't necessarily get in the habit of even looking for a bingo on this. Because you see those tiles and you think, oh, okay, this is Drek. But those are precisely the ones where you get a big swing from playing a bingo, relative to all of the alternatives. So yeah, I don't think I'll really have anything better to do here than joined. If that's taken, we'll just do something like rejoin. For far fewer points, or... oh, cower. Okay, let's see. In case there is something through the C. Not quite something like adjacent, unfortunately. Or adjunct, or anything like that. But we should look at it just to be sure. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be anything useful. He's got AI left as his last tiles, and nothing is going to go under the eye. We'll just take this. Just going to be diligent about this, though. I really don't think there's anywhere else to go, though, so we'll take it. So yeah, after this one, we'll step pretty quickly through this game. Relatively short stream today, because the games went by fast, and we had a fairly small group today, so the pairings were quick. And oh, my opponent brings up an interesting thing, which is maybe I should have tried banjoed. I don't know about that. But that's an interesting point, that sometimes musical instruments do have a verb form. I don't know about that. Banjoing? Banjoing? Banjoed? Huh. I find that a bit questionable, but who knows? And yeah, that's going to be pretty much the finish here, so I'm going to pass. Oh, Hawes does not take a D at the end. That's interesting. I didn't even stop to consider that. Because, yeah, no, I didn't even think that that might not go. I wonder if it's good in both lexicons. And apparently it blocked a bingo in that turn, which was the point. I explicitly wanted to obstruct that spot. And yeah, apparently he had a big play with a P that turn, but let's go back over the game and we'll look at that. Because apparently the rack he was holding that turn was out here, and the play that he had out of Hawes was... Where was it? When I played OD. Oh yeah, that's when he played UPO. Okay. Anyway, let's go back in, take a peek. And yeah, let's go over this. So yeah, it looks like you know, nothing really evaluates that well, but agape or agape, as we were seeing at the beginning, it does in fact evaluate as best. Agu is quite a bit further down, but not by much. All of these are not worth much as part of the start. And of course we just dangled that V hook that never got used. Definitely part of the story here. Zoa is going to be to play, pretty much. I don't think you want to keep a G IOR in that kind of situation. Just want to build nice and early when you're scoring at the same time. Gang. Didn't think about that. Pang and Panga, as I said. Panga in a different position than what I ultimately chose. Would have been a bit dangerous to open up the triple that high. I think I'm okay sacrificing some points. Exile. Oh, interesting. Yeah, because Ilex was here. He could also have played Ilex himself instead of just giving me Lex and keeping the I, but I think he was trying to keep the I as potential hook for himself as well, even though I took that first. Maybe it makes sense to set that up for himself with that Lex, though, instead of Ilex, because he's keeping his own eye. He's building towards something that reasonably looks like it has bingo potential. That's probably okay. So yeah, Angelic, Galenic, Anglice. I was pretty happy with going Angelic there. Binger is exactly what he plays, but it evaluates best in terms of the actual tiles, but it's going to give me Beakiest, and so that's just going to hit like crazy. Oh, did we have a miss this turn? Washer, Haywire, what did he end up playing? Played Haw. And so yeah, a lot of misses here. Sometimes some of these are difficult to see. They also create a dangerous position, but at that point you want some volatility, I think, as the player who is behind. Something like a W play in this position would have forked things open. So you create openings over here, you also create an E ending over here. And so that would have created more comeback opportunities on that side. But instead we just had a bit of a miss. And some of these things are harder to see. Like Haywire is very easy to be confident about. Washer, Warish, etc. Not so much. Rawhide. Ooh, Rawhide, look at that. Really neat position there. Rawhide, I would guess, does it. It does take an S because it also works as a verb. Rawhided. Rawhiding. I don't think you can have raw hidden, though. That would be something to check, but I highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. But Rawhide takes a whole bunch of stuff. That's good to know for future reference. Yeah, I was looking at that spot for stuff like Fur, obviously. So I ended up playing Rev here for almost no points. Don't know if that was okay, given that bingo spot is still clearly available, but it dug me out of a bit of trouble, so. This was always going to be a hit. Slinger, Silvern. Silvern would have blocked Fakir's. But he wouldn't have known that it would be holding something crazy like Fakir's. And so between the two of these, you know, you would be looking at the E spot and thinking that maybe this is less of an issue. Although, interestingly enough, I think more heavy consonants go in front of the R and the N if you're worried about this spot here. But the main consequence of this is that I get Fakir's down for 98, and that just, once again, it's really, really hard. Had Qua available on backup, of course, and yeah, I didn't feel particularly trapped by the queue. So I'm glad we ended up trying that play. Who is exactly what he's going to play? Toft. I didn't consider Toft. That position would have been terrible. We would not have done it. So is that one. Deft is, I think, perfectly fine. Doft would have been interesting here. Doesn't open up at all, but it keeps TTT. No, that's not an option. I mean, as you can see, none of these plays evaluate very well on the right side column, because all of them leave you with absolute dreck. Deft is probably the best thing we can go for, especially given that deft is an adjective and does not take an S at the end. Yeah, we expected an E to go down there eventually, and it did very quickly. So, utmost. Oh, that's sort of interesting that utmost takes the O in front of it. That's a nice one to know. I just went for that. I think I wanted to block off the right side lane anyway, so I likely just would have made some kind of small play off the LI if for some reason I knew that this wasn't good, but we both assumed it was good. And because you can be a hawser, We need to define some of this stuff just to... How is... Okay, because Hawes we realized was on the good and the other dictionary. Yeah, I guess we're thinking about the ropes there. And not Hawser as somebody who hawses or something like that. But anyway, positionally I would not have extended down here and opened a triple. I would not have considered any of that stuff. So I think the play ended up being reasonable, even though I didn't like leaving myself with those tiles. But yeah, if you kind of knew utmost into outmost, that would have been fancy stuff in the right position. Yeah, this is the turn where he had Poutier. Poutier would originally have gone down here, especially if he had known Oz was no good here and challenged off the play. So that would have been a big catch-up on that side for sure. But that did not go that way. So, saw Tantrum in the last minutes, a very dangerous position, but I was so far ahead that I could afford to soak that hit, I think. And yeah, Mutant, like I said, didn't like this comeback position. And I'm happy with that play, obviously. See a bingo like that, you're definitely going to take it with this kind of lead. Deity and Dirty. Yeah, that's just played for consonant vowel balance, it looks like, especially with one I remaining in the bag. And 3 E's. The I duplication should not be too much of an issue, but the E duplication is a potential risk. And yeah, Vest, assuming that we're just going to forget about a V-hook there, is going to be just fine. Buy over there, Hominy. I don't think I knew Hominy. A good one to know as an 8-letter word for the plural. Hulled dried corn. Okay. Yeah, so that's definitely something we'll keep in mind. But I was quite happy with Monty. I felt like I was quite likely to draw into a bingo for a finish. And the J was in the bag, so we made do with what we had. So we'll find out just a moment about Banjo. Banjoed. Jaunt. Okay, so no 7s here, but a lot of things that would have scored well through the C. And scored just a little bit better. So joined was 39. A lot of this stuff would have been about 48. Johnston jounced. Jacked. Jackanets. Yeah. So I should have probably looked at C plays a little bit closer. But I think I was a little bit stuck on joined after seeing this, without really checking the scores here to see how much better they would be, especially with the J landing in those doubled positions. So it's okay though. At this point, you know, it's just a matter of going for a decently high score. And so yeah, this is going to be one of the higher scoring games we've had lately. 546 to 376. I really just got very lucky with some of this stuff here coming at exactly the right time. And yeah, we actually had, what, 4 bingos that game? 4 bingos. Which usually gives you a pretty good shot at surpassing 500, depending on how well you keep pace with the other plays along the way. So, quite satisfied with that one. Anyway, a bit of a shorter stream today, given how quickly we got through all of the games, but that will pretty much be it. And thank you everybody for joining me once again for some of this. And we'll send you on to another stream fairly shortly, so probably going to keep on this schedule. I don't know yet if I'll be able to play a tournament that had come up for this coming weekend. I also don't know if I would be able to stream it, even if I were going to play it, but we'll see about that, and plan A is just going to be to keep to the existing pattern of having a Mario Maker on the weekends, but sometime or other when I have the opportunity, I probably will try to stream a larger tournament event during the day on the Scrabble side. In the meantime, that will pretty much be all from me. So until we have some additional games, thank you once again for watching. And we'll send you on somewhere else. So, hang tight if you want to join the raid. Probably just going to be over to another Scrabble stream. And we'll see you soon. So, have a good night. Fare thee well.